Have you ever contemplated the reasons behind the phenomenon where certain individuals appear to experience increased loneliness with age, whereas others maintain a robust network of love and social connections? The concerns extend beyond the mere appearance of wrinkles or the natural process of aging. As individuals age, they often develop subtle habits that may inadvertently alienate others, impair interpersonal relationships, and complicate daily life unnecessarily. The most concerning aspect? Many individuals are often unaware of their actions until it is too late to address them. However, there is positive information to convey. This video will provide guidance on how to implement changes effectively. We are examining the detrimental habits that often remain unaddressed in discussions. The factors that infiltrate your life and diminish your well-being, your health, and your interpersonal relationships. Meet Julie, a 71-year-old retired librarian, whose narrative illustrates the development of these habits and her subsequent journey towards improvement. What are the reasons for viewing the entire content? We are identifying 9 unexpected factors that may be impacting you or a loved one at this moment, along with straightforward, actionable solutions to alleviate these issues. The information regarding number May 7th be surprising to you. This is the aspect that individuals frequently overlook until it has significant consequences for their well-being. Ultimately, you will be presented with a challenge that has the potential to significantly impact your life commencing today. Remain engaged to learn how to identify these behaviors prior to their escalation, how to restore relationships that may have seemed irreparable, and how to navigate the aging process with intention rather than remorse. If you have experienced feelings of disconnection, stagnation, or possess a curiosity regarding the factors that may be inhibiting your progress, this information is pertinent to you. Please engage with the content by liking and subscribing, as prompt action is essential. Delaying may complicate the process of change. It is advisable to subscribe and activate the notification bell to ensure you do not miss any forthcoming videos. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you found this video beneficial, you can assist in disseminating these important lessons by liking and sharing it. If you find the subject matter of this video engaging, kindly indicate your interest by commenting with the number 1. If you do not find the content satisfactory, kindly provide a rating of 0 in the comments section. This will assist me in understanding how to enhance and optimize future video presentations for your benefit. Let us commence. Item 1. Exhibiting excessive negativity or critical behavior. Sarah had not anticipated that she would develop a disposition characterized by negativity. She consistently perceived herself as an individual who expressed her thoughts candidly and maintained honesty in her interactions with others. However, as time progressed, she observed a notable change occurring within her. The initial manifestations were understated, characterized by a minor sigh on occasion and transient complaints intermittently. However, these symptoms progressively coalesced into a discernible pattern that warranted attention. The onset of each morning was accompanied by the characteristic discomforts associated with aging, prompting her to express her thoughts on the passage of time. The complaint was benign, was it not? However, it quickly began to affect other aspects of her daily routine. The individual observed the news broadcasts, experiencing an escalating sense of frustration with each report, accompanied by a profound feeling of helplessness and anger regarding the current state of global affairs. When she communicated with her younger relatives, her tone became notably incisive. In previous generations, there was a greater emphasis on respect, she would remark, accompanied by an eye roll, suggesting that the younger population was not meeting the standards set by her generation. Initially, she was unaware of the impact it was having on her interpersonal relationships. It appeared to be innocuous, merely candid assessments, correct? However, over time, the duration of conversations began to decrease. Acquaintances started to distance themselves from profound discussions, instinctively avoiding subjects that they recognized would result in yet another lengthy discourse. Even her grandchildren, who previously exhibited enthusiasm for visiting her, have started to provide justifications for avoiding time spent in her company. What Sarah was unable to perceive at that moment was the gradual and subtle depletion caused by her negative mindset. Regardless of the circumstances, it is generally undesirable for individuals to conclude a conversation with a diminished sense of well-being compared to their initial state. Negativity functions as a burden, exerting a downward force on individuals, leading them to withdraw rather than engage with others. It is important to recognize that one can easily become entrenched in a pattern of criticism. The experience of life can often present challenges, particularly as external circumstances evolve, leading to feelings of discomfort or confusion. The physiological functions of our bodies have undergone changes over time. Activities that were previously instinctive, such as shopping, driving, or utilizing a smartphone, may unexpectedly transform into sources of considerable frustration. Expressing one's feelings regarding the situation may provide a sense of relief. When negativity becomes the default mode of functioning, it transforms into a protective barrier that fosters isolation, rather than serving as a mechanism for emotional processing. What methods can be employed to facilitate the alteration of this energy? It is advisable to initiate conversations with a positive remark. Rather than initiating discussions with grievances, it may be beneficial to commence with expressions of appreciation. Upon awakening today, I experienced a sense of well-being. Additionally, the sunset observed last evening was remarkably beautiful, which may serve as a valuable component of one's daily reflections. The phenomenon of positive energy demonstrates a propensity for dissemination among individuals. It exhibits magnetic properties. Individuals tend to gravitate towards those who provide support and encouragement, rather than those who contribute to their burdens. When the necessity to express frustrations arises, it is advisable to establish boundaries. Allocate a few minutes to articulate your frustrations and subsequently transition to a more constructive activity. Curiosity exhibits a significantly greater influence than that of criticism. Inquire about any aspects that may be unclear or require further clarification. Rather than disregarding the interests of your grandchildren, be it an application or a game, consider expressing curiosity by asking, "Could you elaborate on that?" It fosters connection rather than alienating individuals. Upon initiating these incremental modifications, characterized by a positive demeanor, a sincere engagement in her grandchildren's activities, and an increased frequency of gratitude expression, Sarah observed a significant transformation. The duration of conversations was extended. Individuals started to re-establish communication with her. Gradually, the sensation of warmth associated with interpersonal connection, which had previously been absent, began to re-emerge. What she discovered, initially through a challenging process, was that the energy one expends in the world correlates directly with the energy one receives in return. To establish a meaningful connection, it is essential to actively provide it to others. The process begins with the manner in which one communicates, the presence one maintains in various environments, and the perspective one elects to adopt. Item 2. Neglecting personal hygiene and grooming practices. At one point in her life, Sarah exhibited a fondness for dressing up. She exhibited a strong sense of self-regard regarding her appearance, consistently selecting appropriate attire, meticulously applying her makeup, and ensuring her hair was styled to perfection prior to departing her residence. The individual possessed an extensive wardrobe featuring an array of aesthetically pleasing garments, including blouses in a diverse spectrum of colors, complemented by a distinctive fragrance that she donned with assuredness. However, over the course of time, a notable transformation commenced. The initial signs were subtle, manifesting as missed hair appointments and a preference for loose, comfortable attire over the fashionable ensembles previously favored. She started to contemplate the rationale behind her efforts. She no longer sought to elicit admiration from others. Over time, she observed a tendency to remain in her loungewear throughout the day, with infrequent instances of self-reflection in the mirror. She rationalized that it was of no significance. However, beneath the surface, there was a notable change occurring within her. She began to experience a change in her condition. The matter at hand extended beyond external perceptions. It fundamentally involved her self-perception. Sarah started to observe the manner in which individuals interacted with her. Individuals who previously offered compliments regarding her vibrant attire now exhibit minimal eye contact. Individuals who previously extended invitations for social engagements, such as lunch or cinema outings, began to solicit her participation with diminished frequency. Upon reviewing historical photographs, Sarah experienced difficulty in identifying the dynamic individual she previously embodied. To what location had she departed? What occurred with the woman who exuded joy and confidence? The reality that she had not completely understood was that the manner in which we present ourselves to the world influences not only the perceptions of others but also our own self-perception. Personal appearance should not be misconstrued as a matter of vanity. It pertains to the concept of self-respect, emphasizing the importance of valuing one's identity, irrespective of age. It involves prioritizing self-care, fostering a sense of well-being, and affirming one's own significance. What are the methods to reverse this condition? Initiate the process with incremental and achievable steps. It is advisable to dress appropriately regardless of whether you have any specific engagements planned. It is not necessary for the attire to be of designer origin. It is advisable to wear clean, well-fitting garments that promote comfort and enhance self-esteem. Engaging in personal hygiene activities such as showering, grooming hair, and maintaining nail care serves as a significant affirmation of self-worth. These routine practices contribute to overall well-being and reflect a commitment to personal health. Donning attire that resonates with personal preference and elicits positive emotions can significantly enhance one's overall well-being. The subtle nuances, such as the application of a fragrance or the adornment of a cherished accessory, can significantly influence the overall impression. They serve as a reminder of your identity, reflecting the woman you have always been and the individual you continue to evolve into. Upon re-engaging with these fundamental self-care practices, such as grooming her hair, donning her preferred blouse, and applying a modest amount of lipstick, Sarah observed a remarkable transformation occurring. The patient reported experiencing an increased sense of lightness, enhanced self-confidence, and a renewed perception of beauty. Upon her entrance into the room, individuals began to exhibit smiles in her direction. The patient experienced a sense of recognition. Furthermore, she experienced a return to her baseline state of well-being. The resurgence of vitality in the woman, previously perceived as lost, appears to be manifesting not only in the perceptions of those around her but also within her own self-perception. Item 3. Exhibiting characteristics of obstinacy and an unwillingness to adapt to new circumstances. If you are currently engaged with this video and find the lessons presented to be beneficial, kindly indicate your continued presence by commenting 1 below. Sarah consistently demonstrated a strong understanding of her preferences and the specific ways in which she preferred to engage with them. She exhibited a strong adherence to her established routines, which had consistently provided her with a sense of comfort and stability. What is the rationale behind altering a system that has proven effective for decades? However, when her children and grandchildren began to engage in communication via text messages rather than traditional phone calls, Sarah exhibited resistance to this change. She would express her disinterest in acquiring that knowledge, dismissing their proposals to provide instruction. If individuals wish to communicate with me, they may do so by utilizing the telephone. However, with the passage of time, the frequency of those phone calls diminished significantly. Updates regarding family matters, including photographs and reminders for birthdays, commenced arriving solely in group chats to which she declined to participate. Initially, she was unaware that she was isolating herself from her closest loved ones. The matter extended beyond mere technological considerations. The focus was on maintaining connections, participating in their lives, and fostering love. However, Sarah's obstinacy had started to create a sense of isolation for her. It is a well-established fact that change is an unavoidable aspect of life. As life progresses, it is common to experience feelings of resistance, particularly when one perceives a sense of being left behind by the surrounding environment. The key, however, is to maintain an open mindset. It is often straightforward to dismiss the necessity of an intervention, yet there exists a profound resilience in the willingness to attempt it. Embracing change, regardless of its magnitude, contributes to sustained engagement and cognitive acuity. It is not necessary to attain expertise in a short period. Commence with minor elements. Consider allowing your grandchildren to instruct you on the process of sending a text message or to share a television program that they enjoy. Rather than resisting change, it is advisable to accept and adapt to it. One may not fully appreciate the benefits until they engage in the experience. Upon allowing her granddaughter to instruct her in the use of text messaging, Sarah experienced a notable sense of surprise regarding the simplicity of the process. What was even more surprising to her was the significant number of connections that had previously gone unnoticed. Daily photographs of her great-grandchildren shared humor and brief communications that fostered a sense of belonging. By relinquishing her resistance, she was able to adopt a concept that holds greater significance than merely new technology: connection. The process extended beyond merely acquiring the skill of texting. It encompassed the importance of maintaining communication with individuals of significant personal relevance. In this process, she not only acquired new methods of communication but also experienced an enhanced sense of love and connection within her interpersonal relationships. 4. The behavior of accumulating and retaining excessive items, often resulting in an inability to discard clutter. Sarah exhibited a notable tendency towards sentimentality. For her, each item within her residence possessed a narrative, a recollection, a fragment of history that she found difficult to relinquish. The accumulation of vintage birthday cards, which had remained untouched for decades, alongside stacks of newspapers that she had committed to reading at a future date, and garments that had not been donned in years, presented a challenge in the context of decluttering. Despite the passage of time, she found it difficult to part with these items. She retained them for potential future use. Over the years, her previously comfortable residence, once a tranquil refuge, had evolved into a complex arrangement of items, encumbering every corner, every shelf, and every room. She could no longer refute the evidence. What was once a sanctuary has transformed into a conflict zone, populated with belongings that she seldom utilized yet found herself unable to part with. Initially, Sarah did not perceive any issues. She rationalized that all things possess inherent value. She frequently expressed the sentiment, "I may require it at some point in the future." The experience provided a sense of safety, comfort, and reassurance in maintaining the entirety of the situation. However, the excessive accumulation of items had started to impede the overall well-being of her living environment, her tranquility, and her emotional state. Over time, she experienced increasing fatigue as a result of her efforts to clean and manage the accumulation of items. The maintenance of her home increasingly presented challenges, making it difficult to locate necessary items and to extend invitations to others without experiencing feelings of embarrassment regarding the disarray. The environment that was previously welcoming has now transformed into a manifestation of her entrapment in past experiences, indicating a reluctance to relinquish elements that no longer contribute positively to her well-being. When her daughter gently proposed that she consider relinquishing certain possessions, Sarah exhibited a strong resistance, engaging every aspect of her being in opposition to the suggestion. What are the implications of requiring them at a later time? She presented her case. However, the accumulation of clutter extended beyond her physical living space. It also started to occupy her mental landscape. The burden of excessive weight is contributing to significant stress, impeding her ability to experience joy in the present and obscuring her sense of tranquility. The matter at hand extended beyond mere objects. The focus was on the emotional burden she had gathered in conjunction with them. Releasing attachments can be a challenging process, particularly when there is an emotional connection associated with each item. However, it is important to acknowledge the reality of the situation. Retention of excessive material possessions or emotional burdens may lead to a state of stagnation, hindering one's ability to progress and fully engage with the present moment. It is an insidious condition that deprives individuals of mental clarity and tranquility. Sarah ultimately recognized that achieving a sense of true freedom necessitated the act of relinquishment. Overcoming clutter is a gradual process that does not occur instantaneously. It necessitates a degree of patience, self-compassion, and the fortitude to confront the reality that not all that you have been clinging to is essential for your well-being. What are the initial steps one can take to effectively navigate and alleviate this complex situation? Initiate with a modest approach. Address each drawer, shelf, and box individually, focusing on one at a time for optimal organization. The prospect of undertaking a comprehensive decluttering initiative may appear daunting. However, segmenting the process into smaller, more manageable tasks can facilitate a more tolerable experience. Consider whether this item is utilized in your practice. Does it contribute positively to my well-being? If the response is negative, it may be appropriate to conclude the interaction. Consider donating items that may benefit others, recycling those that are no longer functional, or passing on significant belongings to family members who will value and appreciate them. Transform decluttering into a habitual practice, integrating it seamlessly into your daily routine. Establish a modest objective. Eliminate one item from your possession on a daily basis. The implementation of this minor yet consistent action has the potential to result in significant transformation over an extended period. Additionally, it is important to consider the practical implications of the situation. Clutter is associated with increased mental stress levels. This condition may also pose significant risks. This condition elevates the likelihood of falls, accidents, and resultant injuries. A residence serves a purpose beyond mere shelter. It is essential for this environment to promote a sense of safety, comfort, and tranquility. Upon Sarah's decision to engage in the process of decluttering, a notable transformation occurred. The alleviation of burden was evident, and the change observed extended beyond mere physical attributes. She contributed garments that had not been utilized for an extended period, repurposed outdated magazines that had accumulated dust, and systematically arranged her living environment to facilitate the retrieval of items of genuine significance. It is noteworthy to consider that After an extended period of time, Sarah experienced a notable sense of tranquility within her residence. It was not solely a matter of cleanliness. The environment exhibited enhanced luminosity, increased brightness, and a more inviting atmosphere. The individual experienced a novel sense of liberation, characterized by the relinquishment of past burdens and the acceptance of current circumstances. Most notably, she experienced a renewed sense of enthusiasm for inviting friends over, a sentiment that had been absent for an extended period. 5. Sarah had not previously considered herself to be an individual prone to impatience. She consistently exhibited qualities of kindness, understanding, and forgiveness. However, over time, she observed the emergence of minor fissures in her capacity for patience. Brief instances in which irritation manifested, resulting in a loss of composure. On a particular afternoon, she was present at the grocery store, positioned in line with a shopping cart filled with various items. The young cashier exhibited a delayed response while managing the bags, leading to an accumulation of frustration in Sarah. What factors may be contributing to his reduced speed of movement? Is it possible for him to increase his pace slightly? She experienced a surge of frustration, her temper escalating. The utterance occurred involuntarily, preceding any conscious effort to inhibit it. Please expedite the process if possible. Upon the utterance of her words, she observed a noticeable change in the cashier's expression, indicating a decline in emotional state. He exhibited a downward gaze, with his hands displaying slight tremors as he endeavored to complete his task. At that moment, the realization occurred to her. This young male individual exhibited signs of being new to the environment, displaying a degree of nervousness while making earnest efforts to adapt. At this moment, she was exhibiting irritability towards him, as though he were the source of her heightened stress levels. She experienced an immediate sensation of guilt. Was she evolving into the individual she once held in disdain? The individual who exhibited rapid judgment, immediate reactions, and a delayed capacity for compassion? The acknowledgement was profound. As individuals advance in age, it is not uncommon to experience a decline in patience towards others. The progression of life can often feel disjointed, leading to a sense of frustration when external circumstances do not align with our desired pace of advancement. However, it is important to recognize that impatience can adversely affect not only the individual experiencing it but also those around them. This also presents challenges for us. It elevates our stress levels, impairs our judgment, and adversely affects our interactions with individuals we engage with. How can one cultivate patience and kindness, particularly during periods when life appears to progress at a sluggish pace? The initial step is straightforward. Take a moment to consider your response before proceeding. Upon experiencing the onset of irritation, it is advisable to engage in deep breathing exercises. Should this situation elicit a significant emotional response, it is important to consider that the individual driving slowly may be an elderly person, potentially a grandparent, and the cashier who is struggling with the bags could be a student endeavoring to perform their duties to the best of their ability. Exhibiting a degree of patience can yield significant benefits over time. When experiencing feelings of frustration, consider adopting an alternative perspective. Rather than responding with frustration, it is advisable to provide a smile, a kind word, or a gentle reminder to take one's time. During her subsequent visit, Sarah engaged with the same young cashier. She expressed her approval, acknowledging his efforts and affirming that he was performing exceptionally well. His facial expression illuminated, and in that instant, Sarah comprehended the significant impact that kindness can exert. It requires minimal effort to positively impact an individual's emotional state and alleviate their distress. Patience is not solely an offering to others, it also serves as a valuable benefit to ourselves. Opting for patience rather than frustration contributes to reduced stress levels, improved interpersonal interactions, and a more tranquil state of being. Sarah exhibited a consistent inclination towards verbal communication. She possessed an abundance of narratives to convey, guidance to offer, and recollections to revisit. Throughout the years, she had established a reputation as the primary storyteller within the family unit. However, there was one issue that needed to be addressed. She was unaware of the frequency with which she took control of the discussions. On a particular occasion, her daughter, who had been communicating with decreasing frequency, ultimately expressed her thoughts and feelings to her. The daughter expressed to her mother, "I appreciate our conversations, but at times I feel as though my thoughts are not fully acknowledged. It appears that our conversations predominantly center around your experiences, leaving limited opportunity for me to express my thoughts and feelings." Sarah exhibited a state of astonishment. How had it gone unnoticed by her? She recognized that during each conversation, she tended to interject with her own experiences, narratives, and recommendations, often neglecting to allow for a pause to actively listen. It is evident that Sarah became excessively preoccupied with imparting her knowledge, resulting in her overlooking the necessity of allowing her daughter the opportunity to express herself and be acknowledged. She had been engaging in conversation, yet failing to absorb the information presented. As individuals progress through the aging process, it is common to develop a perception of possessing comprehensive knowledge and understanding. We aim to convey the insights gained from our experiences, sharing the knowledge we have acquired throughout the years. Failure to engage in active listening with our loved ones may lead to emotional distancing and potential relational deterioration. Sarah confronted the reality that her intention to connect had inadvertently led to her isolation from her closest loved ones. Achieving optimal communication requires a careful equilibrium. Engage in active listening rather than merely conversing. After engaging in conversation for an extended period, it is advisable to pause and inquire about the other individual's perspective or experiences. How have you been feeling lately? It is advisable to actively engage and demonstrate authentic interest in the discourse of the individual with whom you are communicating. It is advisable to refrain from interrupting, even when one possesses a compelling narrative to share. Allow the other individual the opportunity to express their thoughts. Pose open-ended inquiries that encourage meaningful dialogue, rather than inquiring with a standard, "How are you?" Consider inquiring about any notable events or developments that occurred during the week. During her subsequent conversation with her daughter, Sarah actively engaged in attentive listening. The individual inquired further, allowed her daughter to express herself, and provided guidance only when it was deemed necessary. The results were exceptionally noteworthy. Their dialogues evolved to be more extensive, affectionate, and significant in nature. Sarah discovered that effective communication is not solely dependent on the quantity of dialogue, but rather on the quality of listening skills employed. In that straightforward act of attentive listening, she re-established the significance of interpersonal connection. Item number 7. Engaging in avoidance behaviors rather than seeking assistance. If you are currently engaged with this video and find the lessons presented to be beneficial, kindly indicate your continued presence by commenting 2 below. Sarah consistently demonstrated a strong sense of independence. This constituted her identity and represented her lifestyle. She dedicated decades to the nurturing and care of others, providing her offspring with abundant affection, overseeing a dynamic household with adeptness, and extending assistance to neighbors requiring support. It was gratifying to experience a sense of utility, to occupy a position where individuals seek my assistance. However, as time progressed, a notable transformation began to occur. The straightforward tasks that were once manageable for her started to present themselves as significant challenges. During one afternoon, the patient exhibited difficulty in lifting a heavy grocery bag from her vehicle, with observable tremors in her arms attributed to the weight of the load. A young male individual, observing her difficulty, approached with a benevolent expression and extended his assistance. "Would you require assistance with that matter?" The inquiry was made by him. Sarah, exhibiting a facade of confidence, maintained a smile while gently shaking her head. "I appreciate the offer, but I am capable of managing it myself." However, she did not. Upon entering with the heavy bag, the patient experienced an exacerbation of back pain, accompanied by a significant sense of frustration and feelings of isolation. Each step was increasingly burdensome, not solely due to the physical exertion involved, but also as a result of the emotional impact associated with declining an act of kindness from another individual. She had distanced herself from an individual who was genuinely attempting to provide assistance, someone who recognized her difficulties and sought to alleviate them. At that moment, Sarah experienced an unprecedented sense of isolation. Later that evening, while seated in the tranquility of her residence, she experienced a profound and painful realization that struck her with the intensity of a cold gust of wind. Her refusal to seek assistance or accept support was not contributing to her strength. No, it was gradually distancing her from the connections that had previously provided her with comfort. She was opting for isolation rather than connection, and prioritizing independence over interdependence. Inquiring about assistance is often perceived as an indication of resilience rather than frailty. This perspective underscores the importance of recognizing one's limitations and the value of seeking support to enhance overall well-being. Requesting assistance does not signify that you are a burden. It provides individuals the chance to engage in your care, demonstrating their affection and support for your well-being. Individuals often possess a sincere desire to provide assistance. However, persistent rejection may lead to a cessation of their efforts to offer support. When this occurs, individuals may experience not only physical burdens, but also a significant emotional deficit. Accepting assistance promotes a sense of connection. It fosters connections between individuals, facilitating moments of shared human experience that transcend the immediate objectives. Engaging in acts of assistance, such as holding a door open, lifting a heavy object, or providing emotional support, facilitates a more manageable and enriched life experience. Not solely in a physical capacity but also in an emotional context. This serves as a reminder that individuals are not intended to face challenges in isolation. Facilitating a sense of utility in others can be considered a valuable contribution to their well-being. Consider the implications of a life in which individuals do not require assistance from others. One may experience feelings of insignificance and a lack of necessity. What rationale exists for preventing others from experiencing the satisfaction of providing assistance to you? Sarah recognized the necessity for change. Upon the next occasion when assistance was offered, she resolved to refrain from exhibiting excessive pride. She would likely provide her affirmative response. Upon her subsequent visit to the store, Sarah encountered the young man once more. She greeted him with a warm smile and stated, "Actually, I could use a little assistance today." His facial expression became more animated, and as he took possession of the bag from her hands, Sarah experienced a sense of relief, not in a physical sense but emotionally. In that straightforward interaction, a profound change occurred within her. The individual experienced a sense of recognition, worth, and, crucially, a feeling of connection. Have you ever experienced difficulty in seeking assistance? Or felt the satisfaction of providing support to another individual? This experience serves as a poignant reminder of our shared humanity and interconnectedness. It is acceptable to allow others to become part of your support system. Item number 8. Excessive frugality may hinder one's ability to fully engage in and appreciate life's experiences. Sarah consistently demonstrated exemplary financial prudence. She demonstrated a remarkable aptitude for financial management, diligently utilizing coupons, forgoing vacations without difficulty, and exercising caution prior to engaging in any non-essential expenditures. Despite having a sufficient amount of savings, she experienced a persistent concern that lingered in her thoughts. What are the implications of requiring these funds at a later date? What are the potential implications of an unforeseen event occurring? The individual experienced a persistent pattern of accumulation, characterized by continuous efforts to save resources. However, for what purpose? What is the purpose of amassing wealth if it is not being utilized to pursue the life one envisions? On a particular day, Sarah received an invitation from her close associate, Emily, to partake in a weekend excursion to the rural area. "It will be an enjoyable experience, Sarah," Emily stated, her tone reflecting enthusiasm. "We will engage in exploration, partake in nutritious culinary experiences, and allow for periods of relaxation." Sarah's initial response was to decline. Traveling incurs financial expenditures. Dining establishments typically involve financial expenditure. The entirety of the situation induced a state of anxiety in her. What are the potential implications of regretting that financial expenditure? However, internally, a subtle inquiry arose. When was the last occasion I engaged in self-care? For an extended period, Sarah had maintained a perspective focused on accumulating resources for a future occasion. As she stood there contemplating Emily's invitation, Sarah found herself pondering the possibility that such a day may never arrive. What is the purpose of saving if one is not fully engaging in the present moment? What is the significance of deriving pleasure from one's financial resources? While financial responsibility is a significant aspect of personal well-being, it is essential to recognize that life encompasses more than merely accumulating savings. It pertains to the essence of existence to genuinely engage in the act of living. Experiences such as travel, social outings, or engaging in hobbies contribute to a more enduring sense of happiness compared to the acquisition of material possessions. Research indicates that investment in experiential activities fosters the formation of lasting memories, which endure well beyond the point at which the financial expenditure is no longer recalled. In contrast, material possessions such as objects, gadgets, and clothing tend to depreciate in value over time. Sarah has diligently applied herself throughout her life to reach this point, establishing a foundation of financial security. However, security devoid of fulfillment can be likened to an empty vessel. Achieving a well-rounded life necessitates the establishment of balance. Deriving satisfaction from the outcomes of your efforts does not undermine your accomplishments. Rather, it serves to acknowledge and validate them. What strategies can Sarah implement to modify this behavior? She made the conscious decision to allow herself the opportunity to indulge in and appreciate the small joys of life. Regardless of whether it involved dining at a restaurant, engaging in an impromptu hobby, or embarking on a weekend excursion, she committed to prioritizing activities that contributed positively to her overall well-being. She established a designated account for leisure activities, specifically allocated for her enjoyment. Upon Emily's subsequent invitation to participate in the weekend excursion, Sarah experienced no further hesitation. The affirmative response she provided resulted in a significant change. During that 2-day period, she exhibited a frequency of laughter that surpassed her typical expression over the preceding months. The individual experienced the warmth of sunlight on her face, savored the pleasure of nutritious food shared with companions, and, crucially, recalled the essence of living life to its fullest potential. As she observed the sunset alongside Emily, she came to the realization that this moment was what she had been anticipating all along. The experiences, the recollections, the relationships. Financial resources are intended to facilitate her well-being and contentment, rather than remain idle in a financial institution. What experiences have you deferred due to financial constraints? Life does not pause for individuals to achieve a state of preparedness. The moment is upon us. Item number 9. Sarah held a deep affection for her grandson, Noah, often expressing her thoughts in a manner that could be perceived as condescending towards younger generations. His visits constituted a significant and positive aspect of her weekly routine. She expressed great interest in discussing his academic experiences, extracurricular activities, and particularly his enthusiasm for video gaming. However, in recent times, those consultations have appeared to be characterized by a sense of detachment. Their interactions had developed into a state of tension, characterized by discomfort. She observed that Noah exhibited a decreased inclination to engage in conversation, displaying a greater focus on his mobile device rather than their shared time. On one particular afternoon, Noah introduced a novel application that he expressed enthusiasm about. In a moment of reflexive response, Sarah exhibited a sigh and a lateral head movement. In previous generations, the reliance on advanced technology was not as prevalent. Children engaged in outdoor play rather than remaining sedentary and focused on screens for extended periods. Noah became silent. A few minutes later, he expressed a desire to depart, stating, "I should probably get going." The door closed securely behind him, leaving Sarah in solitude, with a pronounced sensation of regret manifesting in her chest. She did not intend to create distance between them, however, that was the outcome of her actions. Her statements, although intended to convey insight, ultimately resulted in his feelings of dismissal and invalidation. In her efforts to establish a connection, she inadvertently created a barrier between them. What are the reasons that condescending communication towards younger generations may lead to their disengagement? It is common for individuals to experience a sense of nostalgia for past experiences. However, persistently conveying to younger individuals that previous times were superior may lead them to perceive that their own experiences and challenges are of lesser significance. Rather than promoting comprehension, it engenders division. Each generation encounters distinct challenges and struggles. Rather than offering criticism, it is imperative that we provide support and encouragement to foster their resilience and growth. What strategies can Sarah implement to modify this behavior? The subsequent occasion on which Noah introduced a novel concept, Sarah inhaled deeply and responded, "That sounds intriguing. Please provide additional information." She did not disregard it. Instead, she opted for a path of inquiry. She actively sought to comprehend his perspective, posing inquiries that facilitated his sense of being acknowledged. Upon Noah's elucidation of his game strategy, a remarkable phenomenon occurred. Their interaction was characterized by mutual respect rather than criticism. Their dialogue progressed seamlessly, and for the first time in an extended period, they experienced a moment of authentic connection. How are you doing? Have you ever encountered difficulties in establishing rapport with younger generations? What factors contributed to bridging the gap? At times, the focus may not necessarily be on altering their behavior. It involves comprehending their perspectives, perceiving the world from their viewpoint, and providing support that aligns with their current state. 10. Maintaining grudges and regrets can be likened to the accumulation of a burdensome weight, which gradually depletes one's emotional and psychological well-being over time. The implications extend beyond a mere psychological strain. It infiltrates various aspects of your life, diminishing your current sense of happiness and obscuring your overall outlook. Each instance of ruminating on past injuries can impede your ability to fully engage with the present experience. Have you ever found yourself recalling a previous injustice or betrayal, and in that moment, you not only experience the resurgence of emotional pain, but it also seems as though your surroundings become somewhat less vibrant? That represents the hold of resentment. Persistently holding on to negative memories can lead to a significant detachment from the love and joy that are present in your current environment. It is difficult to acknowledge, yet it is evident that bitterness can insidiously undermine interpersonal relationships. The onset is subtle, often going undetected, which can impede the ability to maintain meaningful connections with loved ones. Unbeknownst to the individual, such resentment can develop into a barrier that separates them from their loved ones. In severe instances, this emotional state can manifest as anger, which may accumulate progressively, leading to a sensation of emotional desensitization. Consequently, individuals may find themselves questioning the reasons for their profound sense of isolation, even amidst social gatherings. It is important to consider the impact it has on one's overall health. Grudges and regrets represent significant psychological burdens that can impact overall well-being. Their stress manifests as a persistent physiological response within the body. The persistent tension and negativity may elevate blood pressure, disrupt sleep patterns, and potentially compromise immune function. While it may be tempting to dismiss the issue, it is important to acknowledge that it is likely having an impact on your overall well-being. The repercussions of retaining unresolved emotional distress cannot be overlooked. If you are currently engaged with this video and find the lessons beneficial, kindly indicate your presence by commenting 3 below. What are the methods to facilitate the process of releasing emotional burdens and achieving the emotional freedom that is essential for overall well-being? It begins with acknowledging the difficult reality that the past cannot be altered. The events that have transpired are irreversible, and regardless of the frequency with which one may revisit those moments mentally, they remain unchanged. Rather than inquiring what factors contributed to this occurrence in my case, consider rephrasing that inquiry. Inquire what knowledge can be gained from this experience. By engaging in this process, individuals can liberate themselves from the constraints of past experiences, thereby enabling the development of a future characterized by improved health and enhanced well-being. Forgiveness serves as a crucial mechanism, not primarily for the individual who has caused you harm, but rather for your own well-being. Forgiveness does not imply the justification of inappropriate conduct. Instead, it involves relinquishing the influence that such behavior has on one's well-being. You are liberating yourself from constraints. It is an important realization that releasing grudges does not indicate a lack of strength. This demonstrates a significant display of bravery and resilience. The focus is on restoring autonomy over one's life, achieving tranquility, and nurturing emotional well-being. Shifting one's focus can be challenging. However, when one recognizes a tendency to revert to previous patterns of resentment, it is advisable to pause and consciously redirect thoughts towards positive aspects of the present moment. It may be beneficial to compose a letter articulating the thoughts and emotions you have been internalizing. Subsequently, you may choose to destroy it through tearing, incineration, or allowing it to disperse, recognizing that it is appropriate to relinquish all associated burdens. It is essential to prioritize your well-being and self-care. Sarah's narrative exemplifies this progression. For a duration of 4 years, she bore the weight of previous emotional traumas. On one particular evening, holding a piece of paper, she determined that it was time to release everything she had been holding onto. She expressed her deepest emotions on that page, detailing each regret and every injury sustained. With a deliberate inhalation, she permitted herself to finally exhale them. At that moment, a significant internal change occurred within her. For the first time in an extended period, she experienced a sense of lightness and freedom. The burden that had been affecting her for years has now been alleviated, enabling her to progress. 11. Neglecting health issues. Neglecting health issues may initially appear to be a convenient solution. Who is willing to confront the potential for an underlying issue? However, this denial and avoidance can pose significant risks to health and well-being. Minor symptoms that are often overlooked may serve as the body's mechanism for signaling underlying health issues of greater significance. The sensation of dizziness that you have been experiencing? Dehydration may be a contributing factor, or it could potentially indicate an early manifestation of a cerebrovascular accident. The fatigue that you frequently associate with aging? There is a possibility of undiagnosed cardiac disease. Individuals frequently rationalize their symptoms as inconsequential or assume that they will resolve spontaneously. However, it is important to recognize that postponing routine checkups can result in more severe health complications in the future. Minor health concerns, if not addressed, can escalate into significant medical crises. What is the rationale behind our decision to delay? What are the psychological mechanisms that lead individuals to rationalize the neglect of sensations or symptoms that may indicate an underlying issue? It is possible that the demands of our daily lives and our concentration on various tasks lead to a neglect of the signals our bodies communicate to us. Alternatively, there may be apprehension regarding the information we could potentially receive. However, it is important to recognize that disregarding those warning signs does not lead to their resolution. This action exacerbates the situation. Preventive measures are consistently more effective than managing a crisis once it has occurred. Implementing minor modifications to our lifestyle, such as enhancing our dietary choices or engaging in consistent physical activity, can significantly reduce the risk of serious health complications. Prevention represents an essential aspect of self-care and self-regard, a concept that is frequently underestimated. Sarah acquired this knowledge through a challenging experience. Following her fall, which resulted in significant pain requiring hospitalization, she became acutely aware of how readily she had neglected her health. The patient believed she could endure the symptoms, attributing the dizziness to the natural aging process. However, that autumn, that distressing awakening, prompted her to perceive matters from a different perspective. She made a commitment to herself to remain vigilant and attentive to the subtle indicators in her health. She would attune herself to her physiological needs, prioritize self-care, and cease to neglect her health. The patient increased her water intake, engaged in balance training sessions, and arranged for routine medical examinations. Assuming responsibility for her health did not equate to relinquishing her autonomy. It involved accepting the situation and assuming responsibility for her health prior to any potential deterioration. The insights derived from Sarah's experience are valuable for all of us. Therefore, it is advisable to engage in self-reflection. Have you been neglecting signals that your body has been communicating to you? It is advisable to seek timely intervention to prevent potential complications. It is imperative to prioritize your health and well-being. It is imperative to initiate action at this moment. It is essential for individuals to pursue a life that is both fulfilling and dynamic. It is essential to attune oneself to the subtle signals that the body communicates. As Sarah occupied her tranquil living room, perusing through vintage photo albums, she recalled a period characterized by abundant laughter, joy, and excitement. The individual observed images depicting her engaging in recreational activities with her grandchildren, participating in familial celebrations, and exhibiting expressions of joy in sunlight. She recognized that at some point she had ceased to pursue that particular form of joy. The individual's daily existence had transitioned into a monotonous and unvaried pattern. However, when Emily extended an invitation for a movie night, Sarah exhibited reluctance. Nevertheless, an internal inclination prompted her to affirmatively respond. That evening, as the sound of laughter resonated from within her, Sarah experienced a profound awakening of a part of herself. The latent joy, which had remained dormant for an extended period, was still present, awaiting the opportunity for re-exploration. For the first time in an extended period, she recalled the sensation of laughter so intense that it induced abdominal discomfort and elicited tears from her eyes. Laughter serves as a therapeutic intervention for emotional well-being. The matter extends beyond mere entertainment or recreational activities. This aspect is essential for maintaining both emotional and physical health. It reduces stress levels, enhances immune function, improves blood circulation, and may also support cognitive memory processes. The act of laughter has been shown to enhance social connections, thereby fortifying interpersonal relationships and fostering a sense of community among individuals. As individuals progress through the aging process, laughter serves as an important indicator of maintaining a youthful spirit and emotional well-being. This serves as a gentle reminder to cultivate joy and to appreciate the uncomplicated pleasures that life presents. Sarah departed from Emily's residence that evening with an uplifted spirit, recognizing that joy is not merely a serendipitous occurrence, but rather a conscious decision. The following morning, rather than consuming news media or adhering to her usual schedule, she engaged in a physical activity by playing her preferred music and performing a dance in her kitchen. The instance of laughter, coupled with the conscious choice to reintroduce joy into her life, marked the commencement of a significant and positive transformation. It is important to recognize that the opportunity to make a beneficial choice for oneself is always available, regardless of the circumstances. It is advisable not to postpone action in anticipation of an ideal circumstance. Initiate the process. Select joy as a positive emotional state. In considering the significance of releasing grudges, emphasizing our well-being, and actively selecting joy in our lives, it is essential to reflect on the insights gained today. Which aspect had the most significant impact on you? It is possible that the therapeutic effects of forgiveness, along with the physiological and psychological benefits of laughter, contribute significantly to overall well-being for both the body and the mind. It is essential to recognize that neglecting health indicators may lead to significant repercussions. Please take a moment to reflect on a specific insight or knowledge you have acquired today that you intend to integrate into your daily life. I would appreciate your feedback. What is one lesson you are dedicated to implementing in your future practices? Please provide your insights in the comments section below. If you find this video informative, we encourage you to provide your feedback. Additionally, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our YouTube channel for further valuable content. Your support is invaluable to us,